and you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, as we approach the 18th anniversary of the Uphaar Cinema fire, tomorrow there is still no closure in the case, which is now pending before the Supreme Court. The Nirbhaya rape and murder case has also been stuck in the apex court for nearly a year now. Why is justice taking so long? Will the judiciary wake up, or will justice be denied?
18 years I've been following courts very closely, and I've not heard of a single judgment where you can say sentencing has happened after more than a year.
But 18 long years after she lost her 2 children in the fire at Uphaar Cinema that took 59 lives, her fight continues. The Ansuls, owners of Uphaar, were convicted by the Supreme Court in March 2014. But more than a year later, the apex court has still not decided on the quantum of their punishment.
When we find that a person is a celebrity or a rich and a powerful politician, you find that these people get out of turn hearings. I mean, they mention the matter and immediately they are heard. Like you've seen in case of Jayalalitha, what's happened.
This isn't an isolated case. There are over 60,000 cases pending in the Supreme Court alone. The number is much higher for lower courts across the country. And even when some cases have shot to prominence, like the December 16 gang rape case, the focus on them hasn't always resulted in closure for the families. As has been the case for journalist Soumya Vishwanathan's parents. Shot dead while returning home from work on September 30, 2008, 7 years on, the case drags on. This time for want of a public prosecutor.
It's not just a delay of justice, it is a delay in justice also encourages other criminals, because there's not, whenever the result comes, whenever the judgment comes, they are not able to relate the judgment with the crime. And who are the people who are punished? We are the ones who are punished. For what? Because we lost our daughter.
If the impression has been created, VIP alone has been given priority and not ordinary man and all. That impression has to be erased by the respective Chief Justice of High Courts and also Chiefs of India.
The Supreme Court has put in place more benches to tackle the growing pendency. But till that has a visible impact for families who have lost their loved one, the long-drawn legal fight is itself a punishment. In New Delhi with Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, Ketki Angre for NDTV.
Well, in this case, to borrow a cliche, justice delayed really does seem to be justice denied. Joining us on the program tonight is Justice Gyan Sudha Mishra, former judge of the Supreme Court, who delivered that verdict in the Supreme Court in the Ansul case, where the Ansuls, in the Uphaar case, where the Ansuls were in fact found guilty, but they couldn't agree on sentencing, and therefore that case is still stuck in the Supreme Court. We have also with us Dushyant Dave, President of the Supreme Court Bar Association, joining us tonight, Vrinda Grover, senior lawyer, and Neelam Krishnamurthy, who of course has been tirelessly fighting to get justice for her children and the others who died in the Uphaar Cinema fire nearly 18 years ago. Neelam Krishnamurthy, I cannot believe we were having this conversation that it's been 18 years. 18 years since the Uphaar fire actually happened. I can't even begin to imagine how frustrated you feel today.
It is very frustrating. Let me start by saying this. I would like people to know that I have actually spent long 18 years trying to get justice for my children, whereas I couldn't even I just spent 17 years with my daughter and 13 years with my son. And this experience in the last 18 years has been very frustrating, and what I have found in this entire 18 years is that our criminal justice system is very accused friendly. It's heavily loaded in the favor of the accused. The victims get a very unsympathetic approach from the courts. It actually looks as though you've committed a crime by going to the courts to seek justice. The way you're intimidated by the lawyers, the way you're threatened, the hostile atmosphere in the court, it's very scary, And even when the judgment has come, it has actually not been a closure for the victims' families, because both the judges dissented on the main judgment. And which was a very big setback for us, because we were expecting probably by 2014 we'll have the judgment. But with the dissent happening and the matter being referred to a larger bench, the bench hasn't been constituted, and now it's more than a year. We've moved the application thrice for an early hearing, and finally we were given a hearing in the month of April. And as usual, as the Ansul's lawyer do, they come and ask for an adjournment. They say an adjournment is granted, which I have seen in Supreme Court, whether it's any other court I've seen, is the face value of the lawyer. They come and ask for an adjournment, it's granted. Even when our matter was on board between 2010 and 2012 in the Supreme Court, Ansel's lawyer came and asked for 8 adjournments and he was granted. I want to understand why. When no adjournments are granted to other people, why should it be granted? Because here is a lawyer who has a lot of face value. This lawyer took 1 year to argue in front of the bench. From 16th of February till 21st of November, he argued. And he kept reading the same judgment 5 to 6 times.
And the case kept dragging on. You know, let me just interrupt you there to get Justice Mishra in, because it is rare, you know, to have Justice Mishra come and speak out on this case. And ma'am, we do appreciate that you took your time out this evening to speak on the Uphaar case. It was you and Justice T.S. Thakur who in March of 2014 had found the Ansals guilty of criminal negligence in the Uphaar case. You said that they had contemptuous disregard for the law, and you and Justice Thakur though couldn't agree on what the punishment you know, should be. Are you surprised, ma'am, that, you know, more than a year later there really hasn't been movement forward you know, in this case, and that it's still stuck in the apex court?
No, so far as the conviction is concerned, both the judges have agreed that the accused have been rightly convicted. But yes, on the quantum of punishment we have disagreed. And of course, because the matter is sub judice before the larger bench, so I would not like to comment too much on the merits, but I would say that so far as I am concerned, I felt very strongly that the punishment which was given by the trial court up to 3 years should not have been reduced by the High Court. And and after so many years of passage of the judgment, just sending them to sentence for the balance period would mean nothing. So on the one hand, they should serve the sentence, but in addition they should also be punished in the form of compensation to the victims' families. But my co-judge of course had a view that they should, the maximum punishment prescribed for 304B under the IPC is maximum is 3 years, and we cannot really enhance it further to compensation. And I was of the view, taking a clue from this Bhopal gas tragedy, where the sentence was substituted with quantum of monetary compensation. I was of the view that the punishment as well as compensation should both be imposed on them, and if the and there I would say that if high and mighty could get away, it's not that the courts are not aware of it, but yes, merely because the judges don't really go by the personalities or who is behind, although the perception might be there, but
I think the question is why these delays even happen at the Supreme Court's level.
Justice.
Ma'am, I think the question a lot of people have is why, a delay like this after your judgment came, after you convicted the Ansals. It's been more than a year now, and that bench still is yet to hear, the case further on the issue of sentencing. Why does it take so long? Should it take so long?
You see, there are, priorities, there are cases waiting on the cause list, and I wouldn't really be able to answer this question, because I think it's better put to the system, because the cause lists are prepared by the registry, and when the matter is mentioned before the concerned bench, why priority of hearing is not given to them, it's not really clear to me. I quite agree with the litigants that why should matters, at least where there are difference of opinion, should not be posted at an early date. Like even in the BCCI matters, where there was difference of opinion between me and Justice Panchal, the matter went on and dragged on, and I quite sympathize, and but I would also feel like I feel helpless to give ready-made answer as to why it happens. Maybe priority should be given to some cases more than the others, especially in those where there is difference of opinion between two judges and the matter goes before the larger bench. I think it's some systemic improvement in the listing of the cases before a particular bench.
Absolutely.
I think that requires to be looked into more carefully by the administrative side of the Supreme Court or any other court for that matter.
All right, let me take what you said then to Dushyant Dave and to Vrinda Grover. Dushyant Dave,
so
there was a very telling comment actually that was
concerned,
made. Ma'am, I'll just come back to you. Dushyant Dave, there was a very telling comment that the Chief Justice made in April, Chief Justice Dattu had made in April, saying that we try our best to see that no case is kept pending for more than 5 years in a court. And that's supposed to be a good thing. And it's not just the Uphaar case, of course. I mean, that's seen 18 long years of various legal struggles. The Nirbhaya case, which got so much publicity, so much media attention, it's almost been a year now, and nothing has moved forward in the apex court. How are we to make sense of this, Dushyant Dave?
Well, in the first and foremost, you have to look at it in a larger perspective. And that perspective is that the judicial system is terribly under-equipped. It's under-equipped in terms of manpower, it's under-equipped in terms of infrastructural facilities. So that's something which is really extremely serious. Nobody really wants to address this, neither the executive, not the parliament, and certainly not the judiciary, because it really has no control over it. So today we are virtually working at, I would say, 1/4 of the strength which is really required for the country like ours to really address the legal issues that our people are facing. The second really issue is that our system, unfortunately, judicial system, I mean with greatest respects to the judiciary, is extremely inefficient and incompetent. Generally, there are exceptional judges, there are good judges, but generally the system is really inefficient. And that inefficiency comes in many forms. It comes in because the judges who are selected are not the best of the judges. The lawyers don't assist properly. The judges are ever so ready or willing to accommodate the lawyers for adjournments. As Neelam ji said, that judges really are just not able to resist certain requests of the lawyers. And most times these requests are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And yet, it happens every day in, day out. And these requests are made some of the most well-known lawyers in the country. So there is this combination, therefore, of the lack of infrastructural facilities and manpower on the one hand, and lack of really competent judges who can really take up the cases very quickly, coupled with the fact that the bar really is not very helpful to the bench in deciding these matters quickly. So these are really very peculiar issues. We need to address them on a nationwide basis. It is alarming situation, but I don't think anybody really wants to wake up about it.
All right, pretty blunt words there from you, Dushyant Dave. I'll take this to Vrinda Grover. Vrinda, do you agree with what Dushyant Dave feels is the problem with the judicial system today in terms of, he's talked about judges, he's talked about lawyers, the entire system. And also, Vrinda, what happens, when you have a high-profile case like the Nirbhaya rape and murder, which still hasn't seen closure. How do you look at that? I mean, people will turn around and say that, look, this is a case that got, headlines. The Chief Justice says that, we're not going to give any preferential treatment, and there are so many other death penalty cases pending before us. Perhaps that's a good thing. But how do you see that? The fact that there's no closure even in high-profile cases?
Yeah, I actually totally endorse everything that Dushyant Dave has said. And I would in fact like to underscore that while presently we are focusing only on the Supreme Court of India, the situation of delay is pervasive and rampant at every stage of the legal system, including the trial court. And it's not just about judges. When we say infrastructure, it's even about public prosecutors, it's about stenos. As somebody who practices in many courts, I know trials of mine that are being held up because the public prosecutor is not available, or actually even in places like Delhi, the pool of stenographers is not enough that if one goes on leave for the other one to step in. Now these seem like very non-glamorous things to talk about and discuss. But until and unless the budgetary allocation that we are making annually to the judiciary is enhanced substantively for infrastructure purposes, there is a huge overhaul made in terms of the personnel who are manning this system, as well as actually introduce efficient ways of litigation. We are relying upon very, very drawn out procedures. The government in India, the government is the biggest litigator. Do all those cases necessarily need to be appealed against? Is there any department in the government which sees that doesn't appeal need to be made against this order, or can this be taken care of in a department? We do not have simple systems like that in place. When it comes to high profile cases, we are talking of the Ansal case. I can understand and empathize with what is being said by the families. You would recall that just about over a month, we saw the Hashimpura trial conclude at the trial court level after 27 years.
Absolutely.
This is after we diligently pursued the case. We haven't reached the Supreme Court. I don't know if this generation of lawyers and litigants will even reach the Supreme Court. So this is something that is happening across the board. While we focus only on, we use high profile cases perhaps to illustrate the issue. But I want to also point out that there are two sides to this coin. The right to speedy justice is equally that of the accused. Even the accused has a right to ensure it's not just about victims. When we talk of closure, I want to make 2 points here. The right to justice is of both the accused and the victim. Both pay a price when there is a delay. If you look at, I've just finished doing a research study on jails in Chhattisgarh, where according to the National Crime Record Bureau data, for the last 5 years, the most overcrowded jails are found in Chhattisgarh, where of course the largest number of under trials are Adivasis, who are dependent entirely on a legal aid system. It's not even an area that attracts our attention. The other aspect on closure I want to say is that closure is really about giving a conviction. What will be the sentence, will not be the sentence. I have a huge discomfort when we link closure to sentencing, because that is how we then orchestrate an entire death penalty regime.